saying you not cause Bobby needs the money. In this place you'll laugh right down from your belly. So get in here, you half a queer. It's time for Calta and Kelly.
That's for you.
Oh, hello, everybody. Oh, God damn it. We start. Oh, I got a volume on here now. Hold on. My stupid son's calling me. Ken, how old's your kid?
He's going to turn 3 next month.
See if you can give him back.
Before it gets to the teen years?
Yeah, take him. You can still get him to a firehouse.
I do love all of your posts about your son because they're so clearly loving and also wildly hurt that he will not hug you.
I mean, the post you're referring to, I literally had to put him in a double chicken wing and stretch his face into the counter. And it really, I didn't want to get too elaborate, but I was really making him say, I go, you want to be free? Say, I love you, daddy. Say, I love you, daddy. Say, I love you, daddy. And he chose death over that. And it definitely hurt. I know I asked you 5 seconds ago, but I was too busy trying to shut my volume off. How old is your son?
He's turning 3 in July.
Okay, so whenever I had kids, everybody was like, oh, treasure the moments. It goes so fast. And I'm like, I know. I get it. Oh, it goes so fast. I'm like, I know. I get it. Then all of a sudden your kid's 15. You're like, fuck, that went fast.
Yeah, right. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm not like I'm not even all that familiar with him, to be perfectly honest. But that one Jordan Peterson like underlay quote about you have 4 years with your kid and then it's done and it's over, and he's like weeping into the microphone as they show like slow motion. I mean, yeah, I guess he was saying you only have like 4 years for your kid to have a true childhood or for them to really. What kind of father is that guy? I don't know. Hates fat women and is a father for 4 years. But I do well up. I well up in tears every time I see that, just because it's depressing.
Bobby used to call me and he'd go, man, I feel awful. And I'm like, why? What's wrong, buddy? He's like, I just see pictures of you and your son. And I go, well, why does that make you feel awful? He goes, because I just know Max is going to be a teenager before I know it. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And it's good now because I have another kid in the hopper. I got a 9-year-old, so she still likes me. But when she doesn't like me anymore, and then boys step in, that's when I kill kids. Yeah, I'm not interested in that at all.
So let me get your advice on this, because the second child is that's a hot topic in the Cannon residence lately. So much so that, like, I mean, the hint of me coming has me shoving my wife off of me like an offensive lineman. But
you come in your wife?
No, I pull out every time, but like usually I put it, it's a buzzer beater for the most part. I want to keep it in for as long as possible.
Yeah. I'm a less. I like to paint.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like to survey my canvas. Yeah, and then but now it's early. Now I'm doing, I'm pulling early just to make sure that there's no possibility of it. But I would like the idea, or I enjoy the idea of having 2 kids and the family and like being an actual group and a unit. But it seems like it's exponentially more difficult as opposed to double.
Excuse me.
You're allergic to it.
The mere thought of a second child has made. If I can say, the one thing that's made it easy for us is the age difference. There's a 6-year difference between my kids, and that certainly makes it easier because. Let me tell you, and you can relate to this. It's harder to keep. It's less difficult to keep a kid off drugs than it is to get him in that fucking car seat. That car seat. Every time, I mean, I'm surprised I didn't get divorced with my wife over it being 90 fucking degrees here and that car seat. I'm halfway in the fucking Hummer, hanging out, hanging in. The sun's beating down on my back. The seatbelt's burnt in my arm. And I'm trying to hook this fucking kid into a clip I can't see. And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, listen, I'm going to kick you in the fucking teeth and the judge is going to let me go on it. It is difficult. And now if I ever had to strap 2 kids in the car seat at the same time,
my God,
and the double stroller and all that shit, I don't know if I can handle that.
Yeah,
all.
my buddy's about to have 2 under 2, and the idea of that is enough to just like truly take your life in a creative way. But I mean, especially with the boy, my son is he's very athletic now, which is awesome, but it's also makes parenting much more difficult because he's just capable. And I'm like, dude, you're like a fucking compact human. You truly can like dip, like juke, get the fuck out of the way. So every time he's like lashing out and trying not to get buckled into that thing, I'm nervous I'm gonna like clip down and rupture one of his nuts or something awful and like
yeah, that one between the legs is a nut killer.
Yeah, I always get nervous that I'm gonna really like fuck him for life.
And to be a good parent, you gotta make sure that shit's tight. Like I always wanted to keep it loose. Just because I'm like, this has got to be hurting his nuts. And they were like, if you make it loose, he's going to fly out of it. So I got to tighten the kids like, oh. But that was the safest thing to do. My wife still puts my daughter in a booster seat. She's 9. She's tall. I go, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, she's supposed to be in there until she's whatever pounds. And I'm like, she's practically a teenager.
I was just going to ask you that because the other day I saw like an 11-year-old boy in a car seat. Like it was and he was small, but he was definitely like older. He was coming from the elementary school. So I was like, oh man, like it's really by the book like that now. It's not just length, it's it's weight and all that shit. And people follow that to the T.
When when that kid's in college and he can't figure out how to fuck any girls, it's going to be because they kept him in the booster seat till he was 11 years old. That's the problem. My wife is just paranoid, but I'm like, they put him in the booster seat because they're too short for the seatbelt. So if the seatbelt clutches, it'll choke him out. That's not the case for our kids are giants. I don't know. She just is. She doesn't possess that decision making when it comes to like she'll look at something and she'll go, oh, this expired 2 days ago and throw it out. I go, it's never even been opened and it's 2 fucking days. It's fine.
I'm similar to that just because I do feel like I put my brain power, like I stretch whatever minimal capacity I have for thought to its absolute limits. Yeah. So with stuff like that, I am very like, all right, this is what it says. Get it the hell out of here. It's just in order to not have to consider it.
I don't know. I've been making judgment calls as they go on, and I haven't fucked anything up yet, so I'm pretty good. Although, so my son's 15 now, and a couple of months ago, I go, hey, let me ask you a question. You ever smoke pot? And he looks at me and goes, yeah. And I go, did you like it? He goes, yeah. And I go, all right. I go, my gut tells me, who gives a fuck? Everybody's smoking pot these days. You can't OD on pot. I'd much rather him smoke pot than get dumb drunk. It's healthier, so totally. And I don't ever smell in the house or anything like that. I think just occasionally when they go out or they go to a party, so I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I think as long as it's like Kevin Smith, actually, who I'm a periphery fan. Like I'm not like super into all that old stuff, but right. I do like him. But he's like a later in life pot smoker, and he was talking about how he was approaching it with his kids because he's like Miley Cyrus 5 years ago. Like he loves the weed regalia. And, as soon as anybody starts smoking weed, it immediately becomes their personality. Yes. It's happened to me. It's still kind of going on. But he was talking about, he's like, hey man, like it's fine if you want to smoke weed, just accomplish something first, or like get something done. So I don't think you have to necessarily accomplish something first, but I do think that's a good reminder throughout where it's like, hey, like, this could make you lazy if you allow it. It doesn't necessarily make you lazy, but it definitely is a good tipping point to be like, I'd rather just lay down, and this is what I like doing. It's like, just make sure you keep doing shit.
He gets that quality from me, so I can never really tell if it's weed related or if it's blood related. And he gets up he's out of school now. School ends early here, and he does football practice at 6:00 in the morning. They go out there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then so if I get off the air and he's taking a nap, he's back in bed already. I go, I mean, you did more than I'm going to do the whole day, so enjoy it. Now he's at the gym. That's 2 a days, and I'm not doing that shit. So
yeah, well, that's a great point. Is like as they're active, he's so active in sports and shit like that it seems like he doesn't want to fuck that up in the first place. So having those carrots and the life ambition, that's always a good thing. It's just tough because I knew kids that I guess just didn't they either didn't have adults to acknowledge what they were interested in or facilitate it or whatever, but they just like would smoke weed and disappear, like just disappear from all school activities, after school activities, sports, you name it. They were just fucking gone, and
Wasted.
It was all weed all the time.
I take him. He's 6 foot, 200 and something pounds. He's tall and skinny, and I take him
bigger than me.
Right. He's 15, and I take him to
That's
McDonald's.
crazy.
He'll go because my Starbucks is right next to McDonald's. So if I go to one, I know I'm going to the other. So I go to McDonald's, and he's like, "Can we stop at McDonald's?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I go, "What do you want?" And he goes, "I'll take a number 7, which is 2 cheeseburgers with a Coke." Yes. And I'll order it, and then he'll go, "Oh, get me 6 McNuggets." And I'll go like, "And 6 McNuggets," and he'll be like, "Get me a chicken McChicken sandwich." I go, "Who are we getting food for?" And he's like, "Me." And he woofs that shit down, and he's got abs. It's fucking amazing to me. I eat one French fry, and I'm like, "Ooh, I got heartburn. I can't make a fist for a month because it's so swollen." And he's eating it, on the reg, and he's still looks good. So that metabolism must be really high, and either he's really high. One of the things. The other thing I noticed is I order all that shit, and they're like, "That's $9.87," and I go, $9. If I ordered 5 things from Starbucks, I'd have to get a second mortgage on this house. How are things so fucking cheap at McDonald's?
That's dude, kids that I remember being the exact same age. We were so good at putting together complex filling orders that you could basically fund from the cushion of a couch. You know what I mean? Like it's your job to be able to be like, you're almost tearing coupons and figuring out how to put it all together. But we would my first foray into weed smoking was I think my sophomore year of college. It wasn't even I wasn't even in high school, and my buddies were home from school. We were having a good time, and we all went to. This is when they actually had a dollar menu at McDonald's, and we all ordered minimum $25 each worth of food, but it filled truly like the entire way back of my friend's Ford Expedition, which is insane. But all of us, hulking, giant, like in great shape, could run nonstop afterwards, no problem, still get a boner. It was great.
I didn't go to Taco Bell ever in my life until 1989 or 90 when I moved to Florida. I'd never even seen a Taco Bell in New York. And then we were pretty poor when we lived here. I still live with my mother, and we went to Taco Bell, and my mother's like, "They have a dollar menu." I go, what's that? And she's like, "You can get like so many things for $1 there." So I was like, "Yeah, be fun." So we ordered like $5 worth of stuff, eat, and then we're like, "Can we go get more stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's only $1." I was like, "This is the best restaurant I've ever been to in my life." Fuck, man.
Oh, I love that. I have so many I don't know if it's the same. It might be, but I think because you're I remember going to McDonald's was a big thing. Yeah. Like just sitting down and eating in the McDonald's was super exciting for me, my older sister. My mom would take us there for a treat or whatever it was, and it would just feel like man, this is exactly where we want to be, man. This is where people go when they're celebrating.
It's the progression of a poor family. When you go to McDonald's and it's a treat, and then you go away on vacation and you hit up a Red Lobster, that's fucking big time right there.
Dude, I remember. Yes.
My son goes to school right by, or used to go to school right by a Wendy's. So every once in a while, I'd pick him up for lunch, and I'd take him to Wendy's. And if I go to a fast food restaurant, I'm eating in my car, and he wanted to go inside and sit there. So I was like, all right. So I went in there, and we ordered, and we sat down at the table, and I've never felt like a lower class of human being in my life. It's just senior citizens with coupons, construction guys who are on their lunch break, and other weird people, and you're like, why the fuck are we in here? I still can't believe that they still go inside and sit and eat in restaurants. It's nuts.
I know. Well, the last time that I got McDonald's actually was it was at a rest stop with Brendan Sagalow, who weirdly enough, I was twisting his arm to get to get McDonald's, which if you looked at us, you would not think that was the case. And he ate it. His body. So Brendan is so filled with poison, he's almost like a fat Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Like how they're like, Mr. Burns, you have every single disease known to man, even ovarian cancer. They're like, it somehow all cancels each other out. And he's like, so I'm invincible. They're like, actually, the slightest breeze could kill you. He's like, I'm invincible. That's Brendan when it comes to poisoning his body. So he's gotten every strand of COVID, has not had a symptom. He's gotten, the vaccine, the booster, you name it, has never felt a symptom. He ate the same McDonald's that I had, didn't feel shit. I ate like a half a bite of a burger and had food poisoning for a full day. Had to jump off stage after 3.5 minutes into my headlining set, so into a full hour show, and I was like, Brennan, and
what did you say to them?
I said I announced before, like, so we had to swap spots because I was like violently shitting and throwing up leading up to the show, and I thought that if I gave myself enough time, I could maybe like eke it together or figure out a way. And so instead we swapped, where I was like, Brendan, you close, I think I can do 20 to 30. I think I can do that. And I was like, I'll give you extra money. It'll be great. And then tomorrow we'll go back to whatever. And so we swapped. I get in there. I feel worse than I felt even leading up to the show. I'm lurching and violently puking to the point where I'm now cramping. So every step that I'm taking, I've like drained every bit of moisture from my body, so my calves were seizing every step, and I'm like trying to grab the mic would just cramp my fingers in odd ways. And so I went up there, explained what happened. They laughed. I was doing well, so it almost was like in New Hampshire, in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Oh yeah,
and I felt like. I was like, man, I think I could maybe get like one of those Michael Jordan flu game situations where I get all that like, built up adrenaline, and I could, burn through this shit. And 3.5 minutes in, I was just like, I gotta go. And I literally just ran off stage and shit and puked at the exact same time in this bathroom, made a huge mess of the place.
That is, I gotta tell you, the old 1-2, the out one end and in the other is really, it's really rough.
That's in that scene, right? With the
Three Stooges syndrome.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I don't. So since we're talking about shit, I've been on a diet for about a month now, and it's going good. I've lost like 12 pounds. I'm working out, and I'm eating a lot of protein. So they don't really tell you that the first time you take a shit, it's like trying to put a cinder block out sideways.
Oh, no.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, I would have done anything. I started thinking about, like, I was trying to think happy things and let the gravity just take over. And I'm sitting there getting all Chinese eyes out. And I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? Because what are your options? I can't call my wife and be like, can you help me? Like, what would she do?
Can you fish this out?
Right. And then I thought it may come down to where I have to stick my finger in there and try to break it up or something. Like, that's how desperate I was, that I was considering doing that ungloved and ready to go.
Oh yeah.
And then I started rocking like a kid with autism, just doing one of these and kind of rolling the back of my ass on the back of the seat to kind of push out. Then I remember the squatty potty, so I lifted my legs while I was doing it, and it was a fucking mess. But eventually it like poked out a little bit to say hello, and then I gave it a full push, like when the doctor tells a woman, "Go ahead, I see the head, push really hard."
I see the head.
Right. I was in that same position, and then when I pushed. I thought, this is how Elvis died. I'm gonna explode my temples on this, and I'm gonna die. And this is my word. This is my kids are gonna have to tell their friends that my father died taking a shit. And I finally pushed it out, and then the immediate relief that goes, you're like, and the whole time I could not stop thinking about what this must be what it like to get raped. I was like, I'm getting raped right now. This is awful.
Oh no!
And then when it finally drops, I was like, thank you, fucking Lord Jesus Christ! I was like so relieved, and now I want to get the fuck out of there. So now I go to clean my bottom, and I felt like at this point, after that thing had passed, I feel like it opened the gap. Like it's never been that spacious in there before. I was no longer a virgin. And I'm like, I feel like I can go up to 4 fingers right now. It's just, I was scared.
That kid had some wide shoulders you were birthing.
Dude, and now every time I have the shit, I go, oh God, not that. And then the worst part is that I'm doing this this diet through work for an endorsement, and there's a doctor, a lady doctor there who's like a good strong 7.5 out of 10, young.
Nice.
So yeah, nice until she's like, is everything going good? I was like, well, it pains me to have to say this to your face, but I shit a sideways cinder block the other day. And she's like, oh, that happens to everybody. I was like, well, you guys might want to give me a heads up on that before I tore my asshole apart for this diet. It was really something.
Isn't that amazing though, that post, that feeling afterwards, if there was a pill that could give that feel it, like I was talking, that feeling, and also that when you're like bursting with piss, like you really feel like if you were to hit your stomach on a corner, it would pop open like a water balloon. And then you go, and I have like, it's like I'm getting banged, dude. Like I have like tears streaming down my eyes. My mascara's running. I'm like gagging all over the place. But it's
so relieving.
That feeling, it's almost better than coming.
Yeah. It's the same amount of for coming.
Yeah, but for longer.
This is why I don't do drugs, because so 15 years ago, so my son's 15 now, so like 15 and a half years ago, I left CBS to go work for iHeart, and I got this job, and it was great. I was getting paid a bunch of money and all that, and then ratings were going good. And then my competition started mailing in copies of my show to the FCC to get me in trouble, and it was right after Janet Jackson's Nipplegate thing, and they got all nervous, and they fired me right out after 3 months. I was like, everything was going great, and I got fired. So I was really worried that I was not going to be able to get another job again, because now I'm labeled like as dirty and all that. And I'm like, oh, this is stressing me the fuck out. And my wife is 5 months pregnant. So I had my first kid coming and no job, and I'm worried about getting blackballed. So I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? So I was literally like on the verge of tears all day. And my back was really bad. So then I would take a Percocet for my back. And then later on, I'd be like, fuck it, I'll find another job. That'd be cool, you know. Then the Percocet would wear off, and I'd be like, what am I going to do? And I'd be like, let me take another one of those Percocets. That's what I'm going to do. And then I'm like, oh, no, we'll get another job. And I go, oh, I can't take those anymore. They make me feel fucking great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm too susceptible to that stuff.
It's amazing because Percocet in particular, talk about shit in a brick sideways. That's exactly what those. So I've taken them recreationally like twice, and I always have pain, so I'm always looking to relieve it. But it's from playing sports and all that shit. But I took a Percocet like twice, and both times it made me nauseous and lock the fuck up in my lower intestine. Like really? I truly couldn't shit. And I've read up on it, and that's apparently like a pretty regular symptom. If it doesn't work on you, it has that effect. Yeah. And I could not shit. And then when I did, it was one of those like, trying to shoot a dry baby out of your asshole.
My mom got in an accident. They gave her Percocet, and she's like, I can't take these. It hurts my stomach. I was like, I could take those, but now I at least know what I'm dealing with, so I'll just take them every once in a while. Sometimes, I remember the first time I took one was more during spring training baseball here in Tampa, and I was hanging out with some guys from the Yankees, and they were all taking them, and they were like, "Here, just take it." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Just take it." And I was like, "All right." I was probably in my early 20s and maybe early 30s, and I would take it and we'd drink with it, and then like 10 minutes after that, I was like, I bet I could lift that car. I was in such a good mood, and I was so happy. I was like, I just want to lift a building or something, I had a great reaction on Percocet. That's why I know I could never do heroin either, because John Travolta said he researched it before Pulp Fiction, and they said it was like, the heroin addict said it's like you're drinking tequila inside a hot tub. So John Travolta drank tequila inside a hot tub. And he was like, that was fucking awesome. And I thought, oh, yeah, if I could do that without the heat, I would do it all the time.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever, I forget. Mike DiStefano. Do you know him? Did you ever meet him?
I didn't meet him. I know who he is. Yeah.
So he was my wife's cousin. and he had a heroin issue that he kicked, and he used to have this joke that doing heroin is like swimming or is like getting blown while getting licked in the face by puppies.
Like you know what I always think is that you ever hear the stories of people that are doing the autoerotic asphyxiation where they hang themselves while they're trying to jerk off? I always go, jerking off's been pretty good just as it is to me. Like I never finished and was like, oh, I think I could take it to the next level. I was like, oh, that was good. You know? Like especially one level that I'm a step away from maybe dying by accident. I'm pretty good the way it is, you know. That's why I don't want to do the heroin, because getting blown while puppies lick my face would be nice, but I'd rather just get blown right now.
Yeah, I'm cool without the puppies.
I'd be fine if the puppies just blow me. I'd be fine with that.
That mentality, because I'm the same exact way, and I think that mentality for me is exactly why I could never be a billionaire. Because like billionaires always want the next thing. So it's like, oh, I'm getting blown. Well, let's add puppies. Like, you know, it's all that shit. Like I could do this. I could maximize this. And it's like, I am perfectly happy with, you know, Wendy's number 6 and getting blown.
Do you think that super rich guys like that and super famous guys who fuck a lot turn to like gay stuff or tranny stuff because they're like, I fucked so much it's not very exciting anymore?
I think that's probably part of it. I think there's also like, you know, some of that sexual spectrum shit where it's just like that might have been there in the first place and now they have all this money, power, etc. And so it kind of like, I'm a billionaire. Like it's what us eccentric billionaires do. Every once in a while I'll make out with my wife and then just get plundered in the asshole. You know, it's just what we do.
So open-minded to people's lifestyles. But when people are so casually like, yeah, sometimes I do gay shit, I'm like, that just still blows my mind. I don't care about it. I don't think less of anybody. But can I be that straight where that blows my mind? Like I don't know. Whenever Bobby talks about that hot chick with the dick, what's her name? Bailey J. Yeah. He's like, you can tell me she's not fucking hot. I go, no, she is definitely hot. Till you get to her giant cock. That's when I'm like, I think I'm out on this one. Yeah, and I'm not even mad at it. I good for her, and her husband's awesome, and I'm glad.
Is that her penis? Happy. That was hers.
It's a
good penis.
It's a very intimidating.
That was her.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily need to see that again either. I don't, you know.
Yeah, I just think
I did highlight Tom Brady's penis in the video today.
In that his underwear pic that Giselle put up,
just fucking hanging to the side right there, and you're like, good for you, buddy.
That's that raw almond diet, just keeps you nice and hard. I am curious, like, because the switching back and forth is what not even interests, or I get more of like a perplexing interest, because it seems like two very different dishes. Like, what is the sexual ginger that you eat in between pussy and cock to cleanse your palate? You know what I mean? To like 100% change your spectrum and be like, all right, now I'm done with that. Let's move on to the other thing. Because they're so very different in all elements.
I'm not freaked out by it. I've had threesomes with my friend Pete, who is, as Bobby likes to call him, my local best friend. Because we lived together for 6 years, and we were both in radio, and we both just did some dirty shit, but never entertained the idea of touching each other. And I've talked about this before. I was the victim of friendly fire. He hit me in the forearm on my left hand, and it felt like lava had exploded from a volcano and hit me right on the spot. And I was like, well, that can't be good. But even that, I was not like, that's gay. It's just an accident. And like, nothing in the world ever made me want to be like, hey, let me check out that ass. Never.
See that? Yeah. To me, that's not like, I mean, it sounds weird to say this, but my friend's load on my arm isn't gay. It's just gross. It's just like I would react the exact same way if they got their blood on me.
Yes, exactly.
Like I'd be like, oh, come on, man. That's in your body.
I mean, except I went like this. I looked it right off.
Yeah, you just made eye contact and stared him down.
The girl that was in the middle was fucking way out of our league, though. I couldn't believe that was even happening. I didn't even care that he fucking shot a load on my arm. I was like, no, this is worth it. If they said to me beforehand, you could fuck this girl, but homeboy over here is going to shoot a load on your arm, I'd be like, all right, I'll take it. Worth it.
See, I know I have like, I've done most of my sexual escapades are long behind me. so I think I was even like sober in terms of I didn't drink or do any of that shit, even in college for the most part, until the last 2 years. And so most of the stuff when I was like an athlete and all that shit, I was just pure sober. So I got into those things through conversation and quote unquote charm. But my buddies who have been like, yeah, this girl pissed in my face, like it was crazy, we tried shit, like it was weird. And I'm like, how does that happen? Like, how do you even get to that? And he's like, oh, Molly. Like, you just are both on Molly. You feel extremely free. Everything is green lights. And you just kind of decide, like, all right, hey, we're on this drug. Let's just try it. And it maybe doesn't leave this room if neither of us like it.
I've never done Molly and I've never done ecstasy. And I kind of miss it. And I asked my wife the other day, I was like, we should totally do ecstasy. And she goes, well, I'm not going to do it, but you can do it. And I go, well, if I do it and you're around, it's not going to be as much fun when I attack you. So maybe you want to take it too.
Yeah.
I know we're the lucky ones. Our brains will bleed out into our spine and we'll both die.
Well, that's what you just got to test it. That's what you just got to get somebody that you trust to run a test kit through it. But I actually, my wife and I have done mushrooms together. We've done ecstasy together as well. But mushrooms, I thought, was actually a more romantic experience because it was, this sounds very queefy, but to me, mushrooms have just completely broadened my consciousness and empathy and understanding and connection to other people.
Really?
And it was, by far, far and away. Like I credit mushrooms and therapy with kind of like entirely breaking me out of a lot of my Irish Catholic shit, because that's
you got ayahuasca on mushrooms.
Yeah. Oh, I've taken DMT as well, because right when you said I could lift a car, but I've done it. I was like, as soon as I did DMT, after I came out, I was like, I think I could leap over a car right now. Like, I really like that Kobe Bryant Nike commercial. I think a fucking Lambo could speed towards me and I could jump it no problem.
Yeah. But when you try that shit, that's the problem.
Yeah, then you get clipped on the toe and do a fucking face plant into the windshield at 65. But I do think tripping with your significant other is a fantastic experience.
I don't know. If she starts getting bitchy, like we get along really well. Like, she's a cool wife. Like, I'm the only guy I know that wants to go to Vegas with his wife.
Yeah.
But if she starts nagging me while I'm all fucked up, I might be like, this is the day I hit you. I've never hit her or anything. I never wanted to, but I feel like she could probably talk me into it at that point. And I blame the dog. I didn't know.
I guess I am speaking from the perspective of both of us are familiar with drugs, like my wife and I. So being a first timer, that might be a different situation.
Yeah, well, I do want to do it though. There's a definite curiosity there. I want to try it.
Have you ever done psychedelics in general?
No. So the Woodstock where Limp Bizkit went crazy in the 90s, I went to that, and they were trying to get me to do acid. And I kind of knew about acid, but I didn't know what to do. And then they were like, just put it under your tongue. And I went, okay. And then we went to go see Metallica. And I'm watching it, and nothing's happening. And I go, I don't know, should I take more? And they're like, no. They're like, just let it. You got to work with it. I was like, working with it. Like, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And then they have these giant Peter Max tapestries up on either side of the stage. And a storm is rolling in, the wind's starting to blow, so they run the tapestries down real fast. And there's just all this crisscross scaffolding that was up there and behind it. And then I was staring at the scaffolding, and it started going, boop, 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 boop. And I went, oh, I think it's working a little bit. But that was it, though.
Oh, no kidding.
After that, we went to a rave. Now, keep in mind, this is like the late 90s, so raves are like the shit.
Yes.
And Fatboy Slim was DJing the rave. And I'm there with a bunch of my like cool friends who like go to raves and take ecstasy and all that. And he's like, he puts this candy necklace on me, and I go, what is this shit? He goes, trust me, just put it on. So now I'm fucking wearing a candy necklace. It's making my neck pink. I'm half tripping. I don't know what the fuck is going on. And Fatboy Slim's up there. I'm like, he's not even fat. This whole thing's a bust. And then girls just start coming up to me and start kissing my neck and eating the candy off my neck, not even asking, just like, and I was great. Like, and they were like, hi, Big Daddy. And I go, oh, now I get it. And this is the best fucking, I am not tripping at all, but this is the best fucking thing that's ever happened.
What a gift. That's fantastic.
I was like, candy necklace is the way to go.
See that I did acid. I'm usually a mushrooms guy. I've been mushrooms my whole life, my whole psychedelic life, I should say. And I've done Molly and ecstasy in my younger years, which was most certainly laced with heroin. Some are a bit more rolly and weirder than others, and you're like, oh, this press pill for sure has a third of heroin in it. But when I did acid at Skankfest in Houston this past time. For the first time ever, and it was amazing. I will say that I think acid has like all the positive properties of mushrooms with none of the nausea or any of the kind of like bit of weight that's added to it. It's very clean. You're very alert. It's almost a bit of Adderall-y, like it's super euphoric. And I was getting visuals and shit. But as you could imagine, in a place like Skankfest, shit could get dark real quick. So I'm hanging with a bunch of comics. We have created this environment. It's so positive and affirming, and we're all so supportive of each other, and we're laughing. We're having the greatest time. And then, these like borderline autists with like, the fans of Skanks and shit are like looking through their eyebrows at us and moseying next to us on the bench. They're like, our tickets, they're full access, right? And I'm like trying to close my hood to get like a bathroom stall's worth of privacy. We had to leave. We left Skankfest and went to some random bar like a mile away just to get the fuck away.
And are you still tripping when you're in the bar? Like, what do you like? Can you bring me through that and try to do it to a guy who's never really experienced anything but scaffolding moving? Like, what are you seeing?
So for me personally, like I had been smoking the entire day, but that's kind of normal for me anyway. So the marijuana high is kind of background music to the main event. So we all cut it out. We take a tab each and we sit in this area where we're just shooting the shit, like classic comics at a table, whatever. And I don't remember exactly how long it took to start crawling, but I think it was about like 15 to 20 minutes before I felt like the psychedelic march moving in my body, which almost like it just feels like your blood is pumping, like things are getting stretched to different parts of your body, and you're starting to feel a little euphoric where you're like, oh, you're stretching your shoulders back, you're like twisting your back a little bit, like all that fun stuff. And I laugh a lot. Like, I mean, I'm a loud, obnoxious laugher at homeostasis. So when I'm on drugs, I am booming laughing, enjoying myself. Like, but I also routinely, and this is me personally because other people have the exact opposite experience, but my mantra while on hallucinogens is always shut the fuck up. Shut your face. You talk nonstop. People are tired of listening to you. Why don't you actually lend your ears to people and be a good person in society?
These are all the things I said to myself during the show.
Right. Well, it's funny because like the first time that happened to me was on my bachelor party where I actually stayed silent. I took like a 4-hour vow of silence where I just like was on mushrooms at my bachelor party, having the time of my life, surrounded by my best friends. But I was literally putting myself into each of their bodies during the experience. And I was trying to see the world out of their eyes. So I was like, and I'm just like, like their life. I'm putting together their kids, their family life, their job, how they must see the world even right now at this bachelor party. Are they happy to be there? Like, it's such a weird experience. And similarly at Skankfest, that's kind of what happened on acid, where I'm there and I'm with my buds, but I'm like, I'm a background character. I am not trying to be the life of the party. Henry Foley from Are You Garbage was there, and he was also partaking, and he's naturally one of the funniest humans on earth, and he felt the exact opposite. He's just zinging, zanging, like shooting from the hip, being his hilarious self. So I am just crying, laughing for hours, just watching my friends, who are the funniest people on earth, be the funniest people on earth. And when people started kind of coming in, I'm used to drugs, so I can like set boundaries even if I'm hallucinating. So really? I told a few people, I was like, hey man, now's not the time. I need you to not be sitting next to me. And after a while, they're drunk, so they're on a completely different wavelength. We are egoless and wanting to connect and be with each other, and these people are on alcohol or any other like, devil on their shoulder substance, which is like, I'm just listening to my id. I am pure. Let's fucking go, rock hard Cox style shit. So we ended up leaving with Tommy Pope and Chris O'Connor, who are from Philly. They have a pod, Stuff Island, two hilarious dudes. And we just ended up leaving. We went to that bar, like I said. And then Chris, who was not on acid, he was the only one not. He was our shepherd, basically, who was guiding us around. He brought us to a giant Ferris wheel that had all these lights on it. And we just stood across the street looking at this Ferris wheel as if the circle, was indicative of life and, and all that stuff. And we had a great time doing that. And then he was like, guys, I need to bring us all of our best friends. And we were like, what? And he goes, I'm going back to Skankfest. I'm bringing all of our best friends. And we were like, you're going to leave us? Like, what the fuck, dude? This is crazy. You're never going to come back. Like, every abandonment issue from all of us completely came pouring out. I'm sure Henry started like crying. And he left. And no more than, 10 Earth minutes. It felt like 6 months, on acid. But 10 Earth minutes later, he came back with Feeney, Sagalo, like literally everybody. He just walked into Skankfest, pulled our favorite people, guided them back to this bar, and we made their backyard into our own personal acid hangout. And it's like those type of things, those controlled environments are the best possible way to consume, in my opinion.
And then you guys all started making out feverishly.
That's we all fought.
I'm worried about that. Because all my friends, like Bobby, all these guys are like handsy and they all want to pretend and all my Italian friends are always like, hey, baby, with the kid. I'm like, I don't want to fucking do acid with those guys. I don't know. I would like to do it. I wanted to, the Black Crowes did that one time where they all took acid and they filmed a video. I didn't know that. They all took acid. And they filmed this video right as it was starting to hit. They would start playing the song in this room. And then the director would just start incorporating things in the room, like big black trannies and midgets and old men. And they were it was blowing their fucking minds. And they just kept doing the song over and over again. And I thought that I would want to do. I would sit in a room with my buddies, do it, tape it, and just incorporate some weird shit in there. That's
the best. And honestly, that's like kind of my whole career is learning how to do drugs during work. You know what I mean? Like, how do I have fun while also monetizing my problem? So that's like, that's my edibles intake. That's like, I shot a crowd work special on 420 on 150 milligrams of edibles. So which is a lot for some people, and then like a pussy dosage for people who like take a blowtorch to, the most purest THC and then, go pick up their son from church or whatever. And but it was an awesome experience. And during the whole thing, while I'm doing it, your brain operates on all these different levels. And as I'm sure, with radio, you're like, oh, do we go to break? What topics coming in next? Right. All those different things. A routine thing that came across my brain was, dude, you are working right now. You are earning money for your family while on stage.
Oh, that's funny. I don't know. I don't know. I'm afraid that I won't be able to handle it. And that's why I have to pick, like the first time I'll have to be pretty protected. But then, after that, I don't give a shit what happens.
No, you get good at it.
Steve-O from Jackass, Steve-O was like, I go, what do you miss being able to do drugs and stuff like that? Because he's really sober. And he's like, no. He goes, can I tell you what I miss? And I said, yeah. And he goes, when I was fucked up in my apartment, I had these friends that would just live in my walls and they would appear when I was fucked up and I would talk to them and have the best conversations. And he was like, I just miss my friends. That's a lot of drugs, buddy. And that's really fucking bad. And then my other thing is, so I take a low dosage of Lexapro for like anxiety. It didn't really hit until my son was born. All of a sudden, I just started worrying about shit, and then I took it and it just evened me out. I'm fine. Now, at 50, never happened before. I start having panic attacks.
No shit.
I don't know. My wife's a therapist, so she's like, I think you're having panic attacks. I go, well, what else could it be? And she's like, I don't know. So let me try to explain it to you. Mm-hmm. You're talking about being in Philly and walking around and seeing a Ferris wheel and all that. And in my head, it sparks a memory. And I try to I'm like, oh yeah, and then all of a sudden I can't get the memory anymore. You know, like when you wake up for a dream and you can't get back in that dream.
Yes.
And me searching for that memory starts something in my body that makes me start having a panic attack. And I'm
Oh,
like, but I
wow.
know, and I could see it. I'm like, I know it's right there. So that is why when people start talking about multiverse and stuff, it's all bullshit to me. But I feel like there's some memory that I can't, of a lot of things that I can't really recall, but I know that they have it. So I actually had to have a conversation with my wife. I thought she was going to have me locked up the other day. I go, I have to ask you a question, and this is going to be the weirdest fucking shit I ever asked you, but I'll explain why. And she's like, okay. And I go, have I ever had some sort of trauma in my life that involved a little boy? And I go, not like a sexual thing. I'm like, did I hit somebody with my car, or did somebody die in my school that I can't? She's like, I don't think so. I go, because I keep having this memory about this little boy, and then I have a panic attack, and I have no idea what the fuck it's about. And I go, if you would have turned to me and said, you hit a little boy when I would have lost my fucking mind. Like, I would have been like, I repressed that memory that I can't remember it. It's just so fucking weird. And now you know why people lose their mind, because I don't give a shit about talking about this on the podcast, on the radio. I'll tell my friends. But I think it's easy because I live with a fucking therapist, so she doesn't make me feel crazy when I have some feeling like that. But now you know why people lose their shit and end up killing themselves or living and being homeless, because they're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I can't even trust my brain.
So I think if I did acid or I did something like that, all of a sudden that little boy memory is going to come back and it's going to ruin me for the rest of my life. They're going to be like, Mike never came out of the acid trip. He just lays there and stares at people.
Well, that's the. So I don't want to say a scary reality, but I obviously possible. Like, there are certain things that happen to some people that, like, they just don't come back. Like, you know, and but for me, I've had some bad trips that have bad in quotes, because I actually don't see them as bad because of what they conclude or turned into. But it's like, I've had stuff where I've had to confront shit that I did not remember, I did not think was necessarily true, and
like
then upon
things in your life that you didn't remember.
yeah. When I did DMT in particular, and I forget it. No, I don't forget, but I'm not gonna say what the actual trauma was. But there was a moment where, like, so all these different traumas in a row stretched and then ripped in front of me, and it was going really fast. Like, my dad's head, like, all this, a basketball torn apart, all these different things of, like, stuff that I took as, like, you need to let this shit go. You need to drop it. You need to allow it to kind of move through you, and don't hang on to these things. They aren't necessarily your identity. They don't define your trauma, does not define you, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, but I was confronted with stuff that I did not remember, didn't know, but inherently knew was true. And then I kind of, like, patched together exactly what happened. And it was correct. It was like real
So
moments.
you when you come out of it, you patch it together, or you're patching it together while you're tripping?
While I'm tripping, it was so fast and so potent in terms of, like, the emotional impact it had, that there's no real thinking it. You're just kind of, like, taking it. You know what I mean? You're just kind of like being bombarded with this sense and this memory and this thing. That's why I don't call it bad trips, because, like, I've had similar on mushrooms where it's forced me to confront some shit that I wasn't letting go of, that was, you know, clearly, like, existing in the deep recesses of my subconscious, and it popped out, and it was really painful and difficult to confront. But then once I did, I was like, oh, like, oh my God, like, what a weight off my shoulder. Like, it was almost like a great hypnosis. Like, you just kind of, like, when I snap, it's gone, you let it go. And it was similar with that, where, like, afterwards, especially DMT, the pace of the trip is so fast, and what you see, or what I saw, I should say, was so fast and herky jerky and all over the place, and showing me levels of like dimensional levels of, like, look at us, we can go down, we can go over, we can go up, we can go sideways. There is no linear progression to any of this. They're like
do you think that there's some reality to that when you come out of it? Like, now that you think it's almost like, I don't know how it works, but it seems like there has to be. Like, I can't have all these thoughts and memories and conversations and recognizing people that I never met before without there being something else.
Yeah. Yeah, and not to mention, it's just like it's been done by human beings for thousands of years. Like there's something to ayahuasca and DMT. If this is a routine ritual that we've been doing as a species for a really long time, and not to mention there's like new studies, new as in the last 20 years, of this, like, again, confronting your problems, being able to break people out of previously unbreakable addictions. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
ibogaine and ayahuasca, and there's Vice documentaries where they take these people into the middle of the desert and they do this month-long whatever, and they're taking ayahuasca, and it's like an incredibly painful and difficult experience. But once they're on the other side, they're like, oh my God, like I don't know if I would have ever been able to articulate, know, confront, or whatever, any of that shit had I not consumed this tea or whatever, you know.
Oh man, I just hear about people like Robin Quivers when she did it, and she talks about shitting and throwing up and crying. I'm like, who the fuck wants to do that? And then I was at work one time, not at my show, it was in somebody else's show, to stop by, and they were having you know the wrestler Samoa Joe, you know who he is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's great. He lives here. He's a super nice guy. He's there, and they're drinking this fucking mud tea. I forgot what it was called. You can buy it everywhere now at these stores and stuff. And it's supposedly really good for you. And they're like, it gives you like a little bit of a, not like a buzz, like a beer buzz, but kind of like you feel it in your body, like a tingle. I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll do it. Yeah, so I did it with them, and they're all like, yeah, good stuff. And I was like, oh, yeah, tingle, fun, you know. And then I shit for the next week, water from my asshole for like 9 days. And I was like, fuck your tea, man. I'm like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I have no no memories, and I'm just shitting every 5 minutes. And all the other guys that were in the room, every time I go take a shit, I text them, I go, you guys shitting right now too? And they're like, yep. And I go, yeah. I don't want anything that's going to make me shit. Ask me what we did on the show this morning. I'd have to seriously stop and fucking think about it to try and recall. Ask me what happened in 1973 when my parents were still married, and on a Tuesday, and I could remember details of everything. It's weird. I can't remember short-term stuff. So my wife is like, maybe you have an incident or something. And I'm like, I remember too much shit. Now let me ask you this. Would I say, and I learned this from Jim Norton because people talk about being molested all the time. I'm like, I was molested by a girl. And everybody's like, oh, you weren't molested. I was like, really? I was like 5, and she was like 9 or 10. Right. And she tricked me, that cunt. She told me that if I fingered her, she'd let me play on the Happy Days board game. And then when I was done, she was like, oh, I don't even have the Happy Days board game. And once I told that, I was like, oh, I was molested when I was a kid. And then, of course, my asshole listeners for my birthday all sent me Happy Days board games. So I was like, I'm not opening up to you bitches anymore. Yeah. So, I was seriously in my office at work. I have like 9 of them.
That's so funny.
And then I tell her, my wife, and I tell her, and they're like, oh, you weren't molested. That's how, if I was a 4-year-old girl getting fingered by a 9-10-year-old guy, everybody would be like, oh, that's terrible. You should kill that kid. But if you flip it around the other way, I mean, I don't have any trauma from it or anything, but I do remember it. I remember, oh, there it is. Oh, thanks, Bush. You just made me have diarrhea. Yeah.
I mean, it looks like a fun game.
I was so into Fonzie at that time. He was the coolest guy in the world. I would have fingered fat chicks to play Fonzie games.
Oh, she was fat too?
I mean, she wasn't really fat. I don't know. She, when I think about it now, she was like a predator. You do this and I do this, and then I was like, this bitch has done this before. You know what I mean? Like, I look back on it now.
Yeah, I used to have this joke on stage, and you'll be able to tell why it stopped working pretty quickly. But it was about that sensation of like, I feel like I've been molested, but I don't have the memory. Right. Like I can't access it. And I've felt that way since I was a kid, because I do remember like sitting in the passenger seat, speaking of like kids not being big enough or whatever for it to come out of a booster. I remember being like 5 in the passenger seat of like my dad's pickup truck that had one airbag for him and none for me. And just like, you know, jolly sitting along or whatever. And throughout my young life, I remember anytime an adult like reached over me to like pull up the window or like do something with the door, I would like freak out and immediately think that they were trying to touch my penis. And I don't know if that
had before, you think,
right? I don't know where that paranoia would come from, if it had not been a real event.
Right. You couldn't.
But I
you
can't.
had
But
no
I've gone to
realization.
therapy. I've done all these psychedelics. I've never been able. That's not the trauma that ripped in front of me, and so I don't think it's true. But I do have like a residual weird thing.
I had a dream. There used to be a one of my big influences in radio. There was a guy named Neil Rogers who lived in Miami. He was Mush. Can you see if you can pull up a picture of him? Because this is going to add to the story. His name was Neil Rogers. He worked at WIOD in Miami. And I discovered him a couple of years after I moved to Florida. I lived in Miami for a little while. And he was a one man, and he would sit on the air for 4 hours and just read out of the paper and talk shit and make fun of phone callers. He was, for a one man show, he was just incredible.
That's
and
wild.
Then sometime after I got familiar with his show, I know he gets arrested in a movie theater, in a gay movie theater, jerking off in the theater, or where he was doing something with a guy or whatever, and he gets arrested. Well, I didn't know that he was gay. And I was like, I had no fucking idea. And then look at him. He's not.
Wow.
He's not the kind of gay that you want. You know, you see a guy and he's like, oh, that hot guy in Miami is gay. It was just dumpy old prick.
Yeah.
So
he looks like he's actively trying to get gays not to be able to marry.
So and I then all of a sudden all started coming together, because he was always talking about how hot Luis Miguel was and all these guys, and I was like, oh, he's gay. So anyway, it was never a big deal. It was just a surprise, you know. And then I had a nightmare that he was trying to fucking kiss me. And now I feel like, because of that,
you're a real hot tamale.
yeah, I was like, oh, Neil Rogers is trying to kiss me. And that's like, and then I have recurring memories about that dream. I met the guy once, but yeah, because I'm like, oh, I feel dirty because of that fucking dream. And this was like 20 years ago. Isn't that weird?
That is. That's all. That's amazing. That is like, that also kind of like, beyond the psychedelic shit, it does enter that conversation of like, do dreams have a tangible impact on our consciousness, or on or on how we behave, how we view people? You know, because I've come out of dreams both with real feelings towards a person, both positive or negative.
I dream about a girl. I'm in love with her for 24 hours. I don't care who she is. But if you're in my dream and we loved each other in our dream, I'll marry you if I see you the next day.
I had a lucid dream about Selena Gomez once, and talk about being able to dream and go back into the dream. So I woke up when we were like chatting each other up, like having a real great conversation. We weren't even fucking. It was just vibes. Like we were just meeting at a party and super getting along. And I woke up and I look at my wife and I'm like, and I'm like pissed off that I came out of this dream, and I'm like, please, for the love of God, just get back into this fucking dream. I've never been able to do it. And I just went right back into that dream. Shocking, lucid again. So I'm aware that this is all happening. I'm telling Selena Gomez in my dream how lucky we both are that I was able to re-find her and have this conscious conversation with her, because I understand that we're dreaming, but I'm sure that she, like, you know, there's some element of her consciousness that's probably aware of this as well. And then I came out and I'm like, I love her. Like I could leave my wife today for Selena Gomez. And I think she probably had that same dream. And I'm like, this is how serial killers start. Like, I'm going to show up at her house.
This was real. It's real. Ask Selena, she'll tell you.
I'm going to be like covered in blood on the front stoop of her mansion, just being like, you can tell who I am, right? You've seen me before.
It's me. I found you. Yeah, I dream on a nightly basis. I dream pretty clear. I dream in color, and I dream stories, and it happens a lot. Most of my friends are like, oh, I can't even remember a dream, or I don't dream in color. I'm like, I have the most vivid dreams every night. And most of them are great. I used to have this dream that I was going up a hill and down a hill really fast, like a roller coaster, which I don't like roller coasters. And it happened every time in my dream I said I was going to my grandmother's house. I said, we'd be driving and somebody's like, oh, we're going to grandma's. And I go, oh, no, because I know what that means. I'm on the roller coaster now. And I told my mother that one time. My mother goes, that's really weird. I go, why? And she goes, well, when you were really young, your grandmother lived in Hasbrook Heights, and the hill to her house was very high, and you used to get scared going over the hill. I had to be like 2 or 3. Like, I don't even know how she remembers that, let alone how I have it tucked away somewhere.
Dude, we are such a weird animal.
And the fucked up thing is we'll die before we know any of the answers.
Yeah. Well, and maybe when we die, we find them out.
That's I don't believe in heaven or any of that shit like that. But boy, do I hope I'm wrong. I hope they're going to be like, yeah, dummy, why do you think space is so vast? Because everybody that dies all goes back up there. And I'm like, oh. I don't know. As you get older, you try to convince yourself that something else is out there.
Yeah, see, I think this is what I've gathered from psychedelics and breaking away from my Catholic teachings, is that I do think there's something else out there. I don't know if there's anything else out there for Mike. You know what I mean? But for my abstract energy and whatever is my soul and all of this stuff, I do think that dissipates in a way where the energy kind of coalesces and basically runs the universe with something.
That's what everybody else says. I've heard that before. Like, that's a popular theory. And I always go, no. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know. I watched that, what's his name? It's really smart black dude, the doctor. I can't remember his name. That's always talking about space and shit.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson. They asked him, what do you think happens when you die? And he says, I think when you die, they bury you and all of your body decomposes back into the earth. And then the earth uses your, everything that you have to contribute to it to then fertilize the soil and grow a tree. And that's how he was like basically nothing. So, but I mean, he had a sweet story with a tree and shit, but he was like nothing. So
yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, I think the body is a metaphor for also what's inside of us, because if our body goes into the ground and then helps feed the tangible earth, then why wouldn't our energy, soul, and existence also then evaporate into the air and combine with the other energy?
Because you're assuming that you have an energy and a soul.
Yeah. I do. And that might be pure human ego, even though I've been told I've shattered it through psychedelics. But it might be, because I don't think it's me, and I don't think I'll be aware. But I do think that all this shit, me looking at you, having an opinion, having a personality, whether it's from genetics, however it's passed on, I have no idea. But that has to go somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If you think about it, we're an organic being designed to live at 100 years. Just like when you buy a computer, you're good for 10 years before the shit falls apart and they make a better one. So they design us to live for 100 years, and then how much we fuck up our body decides how close we get to that 100 years. Because that's pretty much, you start losing your mind and all that stuff. And then when we used to have old Windows computers and you needed to defrag them every once in a while to get rid of all the shit you don't need and kind of tighten everything else up. I think if you don't defrag your mind, whether that be you doing drugs or go seeing a therapist, if you don't defrag it, you fucking lose it by the time you're 75.
Yeah, 100%. I think the people in my family would certainly prove that.
I also used to think that Asian people were part alien. Like, if you watch Ancient Aliens, I believe that they came here, mated with humans, and created we look nothing like Asian people. It's amazing. And they created the Asian race, and the Asians were having. So I had convinced myself so much that was a real fucking theory that we had Dr. Kaku on, who happens to be Asian, and he's like a huge, super smart scientist. And I said, "Hey, can I run my theory by you?" He was like, "Sure." And I ran it by him, and I think he was offended, and also he was like, "Well, the difference is if you break down the DNA of an Asian person and a regular white person, it's the same DNA, so probably not." I was like, "Oh, where the fuck my theories up?" I also have this reoccurring. Did you lose me, Mush?
Your camera turned off, but your mic's still on.
Oh, you know what? My camera keeps overheating. It might be dead. I was going to say, I keep having this reoccurring dream that this skinny kid from Brooklyn comes on the show and tells 5 dumb jokes every Monday. I don't know if I'm going to be able to turn the camera overheats now for some reason. I don't know what's going on with it. Let me see if I can switch to this camera. Hold on. Me, camera, built in.
Let me just switch to your phone one. I can just do it from here.
Wait, what? No, because that's on like 2% fucking power.
You're good.
I'll just use this one. Boy, I look
all right.
Horrendous. Is that good?
Yes, sir. We ready for the Joe?
I mean, as ready as we're ever going to be.
Hey, everybody.
It's real.
How's it going, buddy?
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Good. Happy Pride Month.
Hey, I got your text real quick.
What's that?
Well, you were like, this show's so much better without Bobby. I think it's kind of fucked up, but I understand what you're saying. I don't know why you texted me, and I just, it's cool.
Calta and Cannon.
Yeah, it works.
I'll make the graphics.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's Pride Month.
Yeah. So I read. Did you know there's 30 different pride flags?
No.
Wow.
And the strangest one for me is a flag for asexual people. That doesn't make sense. A flag for people that just want to be left alone. Hey, look at me. I'm over here. Now nobody try and fuck me. The asexual pride flag should just be a person sitting on their couch counting all the money they saved by not going on dates. Yesterday I went to my friend's house for dinner. I walked in. He said, "Sorry, I don't think the chicken parm is ready." So he gave it to me. He's right. It was just an egg and cheese.
Literally.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
You notice they're getting rid of some of the product mascots, like Aunt Jemima and the Land O'Lakes Native American. I'm fine with that as long as we can get rid of some of the white ones too. Let's get rid of Cracker Jack. As a cracker, I'm offended. Let's get rid of Mr. Clean. Not because he's racist, because he needs a break to focus on his chemotherapy.
Aw. Rest in peace, Mr.
What do you expect me to spend that much time around cleaning products? All right, I got some sad news.
Oh.
The original Gerber baby, Ann Turner Cook, has died at age 95.
All
Saw
right.
How'd she die? Her airplane crashed after missing the baby's mouth.
That's just so good I couldn't even laugh.
I just read a story about the huge hepatitis outbreak in Strawberries.
Oh yeah.
Strawberries is the strip club in my neighborhood. Their slogan is, "Strawberries, come watch us pick at our bushes."
Oh.
Yes.
Joe, no wonder why you don't like when Bobby's here. You're even funnier when he's not. You're celebrating the fact that he's not here.
Bobby psychs me out.
I talked to
Yeah,
him
no
tonight.
pressure for me since you don't respect me.
He FaceTimed me the other night, and I'm at my daughter's dance recital. And all of a sudden, I just look down and I see it's Bobby, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I know he's in Europe, but I can't fucking answer it. So I hit it the voicemail. Oh, I immediately got the Bobby text. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm in fucking Europe, and I'm fucking FaceTiming you. And I'm like, I'm at my daughter's dance recital. He's like, oh, all right. But I talked to him tonight. He called me earlier. He was gonna try and pop in, but it was already like 11:45 when I talked to him earlier. So he's having fun. That must be a fun trip, man. I'd love.
It
to
must be awesome.
Oh, just trolloping around Europe while Louis C.K. pays for everything. Fuck yeah, that'd
Yep.
be great.
I bet he loses weight too. Like even if he eats whatever, I bet he loses weight just because the food is better.
He said he's doing like 10,000 to 14,000 steps a day just because there's so much walking over there and everything.
Awesome. Good for him.
I googled some of the venues and I looked at like the pictures. Like some of them are like coliseums that he's in. Like it's like theaters that are 400 years old and stuff.
Now, please
Yeah,
welcome.
they don't share our same outrage over there.
Yeah, please welcome the guy that America's mad at for jerking off. This is a lot of fun. Mike Cannon, thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing you here in Tampa on Friday.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm so psyched. June
Let
9th through 12th.
Let me tell you how much I like you. I have 9 days left on my contract, and I have 8 weeks of vacation left. And I'm starting to get angry, so I was going to be like, go fuck yourselves. I'm done. I'm just taking these next 2 vacations. And I was like, Cannon's coming. I'll wait till Friday, and then I'll be an asshole.
Oh, you're the man. I love you, buddy.
Fun. Yeah, and then Feeney, I ran into Feeney at the Paul McCartney concert in Orlando.
Oh, yeah, I saw
last
that.
weekend. And then he and I were talking. He's like, "Hey, I'm coming down in July," and I didn't have the heart to tell him, "Like, man, I don't have a job when you get here, but I'm trying." Same thing with Colin. I was talking to Colin too, and I was like, "Listen, I got to be honest with you. I don't want to tell you to book this fucking gig, and then I don't have a show. So just wait until we know what's going on. But
Yeah.
I'll be at one place, one way or another. We'll figure it all out."
Hell yeah.
So Mike Cannon this weekend at the Side Splitters in Tampa, and what else you got? Anything else you want to plug?
My special on YouTube,
Oh,
White
yeah, on
Privilege
YouTube.
Homeless, youtube.com/Mike Cannon Comedy. Brand new hour. And if you haven't seen the last one, that's also up there. And my first one is up there. So I have 3 hours of stand-up comedy, plus a ton of web series. I did a poker interview series with Bobby, Greg Stone, and Ari. 3 separate episodes. I did, Frank Rigatone, a character. I have all this shit up on my YouTube. So just check it out.
How is the feedback? I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched it yet, but I have.
Oh, it's cool.
I just now watched Sam Morril's special from like 3 years ago. I'm just trying to catch up on everything.
Feedback has been very good, very positive. Everybody has been incredibly nice, and I'm pressing the gas, dude. I got a crowd work special coming out in July, so a documentary that I shot with my dad coming out later this year. There's a ton of stuff in the works, so I'm pumped.
That's awesome. I'd love to do something with my dad, but I know it'll always end in something weird happening.
Oh,
especially like I always thought, like I gave my dad weed one time, an edible, without telling him. And it was Christmas Eve, and I gave him it was a espresso bean. I go, here, espresso bean, take this. He goes, I'll just take it. And he ate it, and like a half hour later, he goes, what the fuck did you give me? And I was like, oh, it was weed. And he goes, are you serious? And I go, yeah. What do you care? You're retired. And he goes, asshole. And then he's cooking in the kitchen. I just see him walk over to the other room and just sit down. I go, I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. I don't want my dad to get really fucked up and be like, I've killed people. I don't want to know. I don't want to know anything. Joe Russell, of course, The Cheese Show. You can find it on YouTube. Just search The Cheese Show. It's great. New cheeses. New show coming up on Wednesday, right?
Wednesday, we got a cheese that's covered in flowers, like flower petals.
Like rose petals and shit like that?
Yeah, it looks like potpourri almost.
A rosy brie.
I gotta tell you, I heard a comedian I make a joke the other day about blue cheese. I love blue cheese.
I love it.
And he's like, we've convinced ourselves that blue cheese tastes good when we know it's rotted fucking cheese. And I was like, he's right. It's rotted, and I like it. And I go, oh, fuck. Anyway, The Cheese Show. Find it on YouTube. Go follow them on Instagram. Subscribe. Same thing with I Am Mike Cannon on Instagram and everywhere else. And check out his special. Bobby Kelly is gone for another week, I think, as he is in Copenhagen tonight with Louis C.K. And then they go to Germany, I believe. You can go to Robert Kelly Live and see his upcoming dates. He's also coming here to see me in Tampa. After Montreal, he goes to Port Charlotte at Visani, then Newtown at the Newtown Theater, and then boom, back over here. And well, I think there's probably going to be something in between those dates, but eventually he'll be back here in Tampa. And for all your merchandise, go to comicwearables.com, where you could just buy shirts with our dumb faces on it and YKWD and Calta and Kelly stuff and everything else. Mike Cannon, thank you. It's great to see you. I look forward to seeing you Friday. Joe Russell, you're the best. Great jokes tonight.
Thanks, buddy.
Ladybugs, thank you for hanging in here even though Bobby's not here. We will see you on Friday. Goodbye.